So I feel like this movie was like the Bigfoot of superhero cinema. So many people were convinced that this was real, but yet for a few years nothing ever came of it. Until now. Thank you, Zack Snyder. What's going on? Welcome back to yet another brand new movie review, and as always, I thank you all so much for stopping by, and I hope you enjoy your stay. This time around, we are looking at Zack Snyder's Justice League, which just released this past week on HBO Max, and yes, this thing is real! Everybody rejoice, because comic book fans near and far have been begging for this cut ever since the 2017 theatrical version came out, which was... And this movie basically follows the same plot lines as that theatrical version. Fueled by his restored faith in humanity and inspired by Superman's selfless act of sacrifice, Bruce Wayne enlists a newfound ally Diana Prince to face an even greater threat. Together, Batman and Wonder Woman work quickly to recruit a team to stand against this newly awakened enemy. Despite the formation of an unprecedented league of heroes, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Cyborg, and the Flash, it may be too late to save the planet from an assault of catastrophic proportions. So just to get this bit out of the way, this may be an unpopular opinion, but I honestly did not hate the first Justice League when it came out in theaters. I thought it was a fun, easy watch upon first viewing, but after rewatching it, I can definitely agree that, yeah, it's very problematic. When you put all the elements together in the theatrical cut, there's a lot of things that just don't make any sense. And there's a few characters in that version that either just feel like they're there, just present in the moment, or they just pose no threat whatsoever. Like a lot of other hardcore DCEU fans, I as well was super curious as to how Zack Snyder would have approached this version of the Justice League. Because I, for one, really enjoy Man of Steel. That is a perfectly solid Superman film for the modern times. Batman v Superman definitely has its problems, but I feel like that's all due to the marketing behind it. And that's mainly because that one trailer spoiled every single surprise possible behind BVS. You know, that f***ing trailer. And just a side note, that trailer is actually the main reason why I try to stay away from them as much as possible these days. What can I say? I've got PTSD for big surprises being spoiled for me. Well, guys, I think we can all take a big sigh of relief for everybody that hated the Justice League, because with this movie, Zack Snyder has gifted us some comic book greatness. His cut of the Justice League is far superior to the theatrical version in almost every single way. If there's one word that I could use to describe this film, it would be epic. You don't even need to look at the title. You could just go into this thing completely blank, and you can take one look at these beautiful visuals and stylistic imagery. You can just tell that this movie has Zack Snyder written all over it. And these are honestly some of the best visuals I've seen in a DC comic book movie in years. The CGI is staggering. The fight scenes and the stunts are sensationally brutal. That was a welcome surprise for me, was the sheer brutality of some of the violence in this film. The way Snyder handled some of these death scenes almost reminded me of Logan. There's one death scene in particular that I can't remember for the life of me if it was in the theatrical cut the way they did it, but it legit caught me by surprise. Speaking of, this film is chock full of comic book surprises. And yes, even though it follows the same basic story as the theatrical version, Zack Snyder definitely still has the tendency to throw in a bunch of Easter eggs for the comic book fans. And this all brings me into what I think is my biggest praise that I can give this film, is that Zack Snyder actually gives a lot of these characters the time they deserved in order to be developed. Because you guys have all seen the theatrical version, it all just feels so rushed. It's almost like the original director wanted to get these guys teamed up as soon as he possibly could so they could fight this big beam in the sky. And the development of a lot of those characters, like your Cyborg, like Aquaman to an extent, like Steppenwolf, everything just felt so rushed. All those characters were shoehorned into the storyline so quickly in the theatrical version that I didn't really care about any of the heroes that were set up. The new characters got in and they got out, basically. But Zack Snyder gives these characters the time they deserve. The movie's 4 hours for a good reason, because each character has their own origin story that we gotta get through. And I was so happy to see a lot of these characters get their way overdue justice. Pun absolutely intended. A perfect example of this is the villain Steppenwolf, played by Ciarán Hinds. Steppenwolf in the theatrical cut looks like a complete moron wearing this really cool Comic-Con cosplay, and he didn't pose any threat to the team whatsoever. But he's given a complete overhaul in Snyder's vision. The CGI on this character, so badass. His action sequences, really freaking awesome. And Ciarán Hinds' performance, stellar, extremely menacing. And in Snyder's version, he actually poses a threat to all of humanity. What a concept! While I'm on the subject of characters that get time to shine here, Ray Fisher as Cyborg. In the theatrical cut, he kind of felt sidelined compared to everybody else. Not here. Zack Snyder has gone on the record to state that in his version, Cyborg is the heart and soul of it, and he wasn't lying in the slightest. Cyborg's story here is so heart-wrenchingly tragic, and Ray Fisher plays all of this material brilliantly. Please give this man a solo Cyborg film as soon as you possibly can. But that's one thing that kind of bugs me about this movie, because it does feel very bittersweet in a lot of ways. It's so awesome, and I'm so happy that Zack Snyder got to share his vision with the world finally. But without spoiling anything, this movie definitely establishes the possibility that there could be more. And I'm all for that. But that's all still up in the air. If this is in fact the last time we see some of these actors don the super suits and portray these characters, well then let me tell you, they went out with a bang. Speaking of, every actor is on their A game here. Gal Gadot is once again such a badass as Wonder Woman. Her action sequences might have been my favorite of the group if I'm really thinking about it. And Jason Momoa, otherwise known as Roman Reigns' nicer twin brother, so good as Aquaman. I love the development he gets in this movie as well. Now a lot of people I know are feeling quite indifferent to Ben Affleck. I've always been a huge fan and a huge advocate for his work. I think he's awesome. And as Bruce Wayne / Batman, no different. He is once again awesome as Batman. He is one of the few characters that doesn't need a bunch of exposition given to him this time around, because keep in mind, he's already got BVS under his belt. But we still do get a lot of valuable time with this film with Batman, because he is Batman after all. And even though I loved seeing Batman kick all this ass again, and I'm all for an older, more weather-beaten Batman coming back from out of the shadows, some of my favorite scenes in this movie were of just Bruce Wayne himself. He's got a lot of great moments with Jeremy Irons as Alfred specifically, who is fantastic in this role. But let's address the elephant in the room. Henry Cavill as Superman. I absolutely loved everything they did with Superman in this version, even more so than the theatrical cut, whereas he was my favorite part in there. If this is in fact Cavill's last hurrah donning the cape, what better way to hang it up? I really hope it isn't, but if it is, he should be really proud. But that kind of leads me into some of my issues that I had with the Snyder Cut, and honestly, it's really tough to come up with some nitpicks for this one, because I'm still so happy for Snyder that he got to do this. And even though there's a lot to love about this film, it always left me wanting more. And that sounds like a pro, because if I want more from a specific universe, you know a movie's doing its job right. It's an especially effective trait for a superhero movie to have these days. But here's the thing. Like I said earlier, whether or not we get more is still very much up in the air, depending on what's going on behind the scenes. But the way this film was presented, and specifically with how it ends, it definitely leaves that door open. I'm just not sure if it'll actually happen, but if it does, I'm all for it. I'm all for the Snyderverse. And next, I gotta talk about Ezra Miller as Barry Allen / The Flash. Now, before I get to that, this is not a bad performance by any stretch. A lot of people believe that he actually stole the show in the theatrical cut. But in Snyder's vision, I don't know, guys. Some of his humor didn't really strike me. He kind of felt like he was the out-of-place guy to me. Like, he was too jokey. In general, the humor is pretty hit or miss in Snyder's version. I was laughing more so at the subtle humor here. Flash's humor wasn't all that subtle to me. Last thing I want to talk about is this 4-hour runtime. Now, I know what you're thinking. A lot of fans are watching this film and they don't care that it's 4 hours and it flies by for them. Good for you. I'm glad you guys feel that way, but me personally, there were times where I definitely felt that runtime. Like, it almost felt like Return of the King in some senses, because there was a point where it would have been the perfect ending, but it just kind of kept going on for about a good 20 minutes or so. Like, there were a few small parts in the movie where I can really feel that runtime, and in the grand scheme of things, I don't really think they needed to be there. Nevertheless, I'm very pleased that we got this version, and if this is the last dance for a lot of these actors like Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill, what better way to hang up the cape? I'm gonna give Zack Snyder's Justice League a B+. And I'm super stoked that Zack Snyder was finally able to give longtime fans his vision, and it's certainly delivered to the tune of 4 epic hours of awesomeness. This is just one guy's opinion though. What did you guys think of Zack Snyder's Justice League? Do you guys agree with me? Do you not? What is your favorite film in the entire DCEU? I would love to discuss all of these thoughts and then some all down there in the comments with you guys, because I love it. I love what I do here. I love discussing cinema and all things entertainment with you guys. If these topics sound appealing to you, definitely consider hitting that big red subscribe button down below as hard as you possibly can, because if you do, you will be the first ones to know anytime a new video hits the channel over here, and it's also free. And just a reminder, if you liked this video, please be sure to leave a thumbs up on your way out. That would be awesome. And as per, look out for more exciting content hitting this channel very, very soon. You guys are the best. And with all that being said, back talk, commence.